Classic Mac gaming is something I genuinely love. The games are weird, creative, experimental, and full of personality in a way you just don't see anymore. But the setup can sometimes be the hardest part. Screen resolutions, color settings, and managing CDs or disc images. It's part of the charm, but it can also slow things down. That's what makes GameBox Classic immediately interesting to me. This is a brand new game launcher designed specifically for classic Mac OS. Think Mac OS 8.5 through OS 9. The goal here is simple but ambitious. Take all that friction, all that setup work, and wrap it into one clean place where your games just launch. Before going any further, expectations matter. This isn't a polished corporate product. It's early software built by a single developer, and it definitely feels like a first major release. But it's also packed with thoughtful ideas, some of which already work quite well, and others that seem like they could be pretty good in the future. At its core, GameBox Classic is a game launcher and manager for classic Mac OS, built specifically with PowerPC Macs in mind. Instead of bouncing between folders, disk images, and control panels, the idea here is to give you one central place where all your games live, and where launching them feels closer to turning on a console than booting up a 30-year-old computer. The main feature is a central game library. You add your games once, and from that point on, they're all right there in a single list. GameBox also supports virtual CDs and disk images, letting you associate images with specific games so you don't have to manually insert CDs or manually mount images each time you want to play. Once that setup is done, launching a game is essentially one click. On top of that, the app can automatically switch screen resolutions when a game starts, then switch them back when you quit. It also tracks playtime in the background, which is a fun, modern touch you don't normally see on classic Mac software. And behind the scenes, it uses launch scripts to tie all of this together and reduce as much manual setup as possible. The best way to think about GameBox Classic is as a console-style front-end for classic Mac gaming. It's trying to smooth over all the little hassles and let you focus on actually playing the games. And conceptually, that's a really solid idea. Installing GameBox Classic is pretty straightforward, and once you open it up, the first thing you'll notice is how simple the interface is. There's no heavy theming, no flashy visuals, and no attempt to dress this up as something it's not. It's a very basic, no-frills application, and honestly, that's not a bad thing on a classic Mac. Adding games can be done in two different ways. You can select an individual game application and add it directly to your library, or you can point GameBox at an entire folder and let it add every application inside. That second option is especially handy if you already have a dedicated games folder where all your games are stored. That's how we did it back in the day, we just had one big games folder. Virtual CDs take a bit more effort. You do need to manually assign disk images or ISOs to each game, which can feel a little tedious at first. But once you've done the setup work, the payoff is real. From that point on, launching a game is genuinely a one-click process. No mounting images, no extra steps, no bouncing around the Finder. My overall impression after setting everything up is that GameBox Classic is definitely bare bones, but it's functional. Nothing felt outright broken. Instead, it feels early, like a solid foundation that's doing the job, even if it hasn't been fully polished yet. I also like that you can create custom genres to organize your library. That said, it took me a while to figure out where that option was hiding in the menus, so it's not immediately obvious. Once you know it's there, though, it's a really nice addition. Taken together, this is where GameBox Classic really starts to make sense. Once everything is configured, launching games is genuinely easier than doing it all manually. It cuts out enough friction that you actually want to use it, which is kind of the whole point of a launcher like this. One thing I honestly wasn't expecting was how much it leans into community features, and this ended up being one of my favorite parts of the experience. There's a spotlight section built right into the app that highlights user-submitted games. These aren't just random picks either. Each featured game includes a direct link that sends you to the Mac Garden, so you can immediately download and try it out for yourself. That feels very intentional, like the goal here isn't just to organize games, but to actively encourage discovery and preservation of classic Mac software. There's also an online scoreboard system, which I found way more charming than I expected. You manually submit your scores. There's no anti-cheat, no verification. From what I can tell, it's just the honor system. And weirdly enough, that makes it feel perfectly appropriate for this era of computing. It has a very old internet vibe, like high scoreboards taped to the side of an arcade cabinet. Between this and the developer's activity on places like Reddit and 68K MLA, there's a strong sense that this project is being built with the Classic Mac community, not just for it. That said, once you spend more time with GameBox Classic, some usability friction becomes hard to ignore. Right now, games don't have descriptions, metadata, or any kind of background information. There's also no automatic scraping of game details from online sources. Personally, I would love to click on a game and read a short blurb about its history or development, especially given how much Classic Mac software risks being forgotten. That feels like a missed opportunity for both context and preservation. You also can't use the arrow keys to scroll through the games list, which sounds minor, but on an older machine with a keyboard-focused workflow, it's surprisingly annoying. I had a game crash my computer during testing, and I reopened the app and realized I had lost all the games I added since the last launch. That one hurt. As far as I can tell, the app only saves changes when you quit. More frequent auto-saving would make a huge difference. Now, performance is where things get more serious. GameBox Classic was created in Real Basic, which can produce applications that are sort of slow. This app here uses about 10 megabytes of RAM, which might not sound like much today, but on a Classic Mac, that's a pretty significant chunk of memory. Because of that alone, I wouldn't want to use this on anything older than a G3. And even on lower end systems, it's probably a tough sell. My test machine was a 400 MHz PowerPC G3 Lombard with 320 megabytes of physical RAM and no virtual memory. Definitely not a weak Classic Mac, and yet some games ran noticeably worse when launched through GameBox Classic. Prince of Persia, which is a 68K game, ran hilariously bad, like genuinely unplayable. I don't think there's a console command on the original Quake 2 to show frames per second, but using the time refresh console command, the game didn't show a drastic performance drop on paper, but during actual gameplay, the difference was obvious. Movement felt choppier, and frame pacing just wasn't as smooth. Something is clearly happening in the background while GameBox Classic is running, and whatever overhead it introduces may not show up cleanly in benchmarks, but you can absolutely feel it when you're playing. On the website, GameBox Classic is listed as supporting PowerPC Macs from Mac OS 8.6 through OS 10. The developer has also mentioned that it's really aimed at G3 systems. But in practice, the performance overhead makes those claims feel a bit optimistic, especially for action-heavy or timing-sensitive games. Right now, that overhead is the single biggest issue holding the software back. There is a free trial, but it's limited to 10 launches of the app itself. Once you hit that limit, you need to register the full version, which costs $10. That said, the trial was enough to understand the vision. After a couple of hours with it, I walked away feeling like I get what this software wants to be, even if it's not quite there yet. So where does that leave GameBox Classic? Well, to me, it feels like the Classic Mac equivalent of something like Launchbox. Not in polish or depth yet, but in spirit. It's trying to centralize your game library, reduce friction, and make jumping into a game feel effortless. Right now, it's best suited for slower paced, turn-based, or less timing-sensitive games, where the performance overhead doesn't get in the way. For faster action games, launching them directly still delivers better results. I genuinely like what's being built here. The ideas are solid, the foundation is strong, and the community focus is encouraging. If performance improves and features expand, better auto-saving, richer game info, smoother background behavior, this could absolutely become the launcher for Classic Mac games. But what do you guys think? Have you tried it out yet? Did you have any of the issues I had in my tests? I'd like to hear from you in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe for more Classic Mac content like this. Thanks so much for your time today. Goodbye.